The phone buzzed at 3:17 a.m., cutting through the silence of our bedroom like a rusty knife. I knew it was Vanessa before I even looked at the screen. My wife had a talent for turning her emergencies into my problems, usually at the most inconvenient times possible. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Derek, thank God you answered. Her voice was shrill, slurred, with that particular edge she got when she'd been drinking expensive wine on someone else's dime. Background noise flooded through the speaker, thumping bass, laughter, the unmistakable sound of people having the kind of fun that costs more than my monthly salary. What's wrong now? I sat up in bed, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. The digital clock cast an angry red glow across our empty king-size mattress. Empty because my wife of 8 years had apparently found better company elsewhere. My card got declined. Can you believe it? At Meridian Club in front of everyone. I need you to transfer $2,000 right now, or they won't let us leave. The manager is being such a complete ass about it. I rubbed my eyes, processing this information with the kind of weary resignation that comes from years of practice. Us? What? You said us. Who's with you, Vanessa? A pause. Too long. Just Lila and some friends from work. Look, can we discuss this later? I'm standing here looking like an idiot while you... Ask your father. The words came out flat, emotionless. I'd perfected this tone over months of similar conversations. What? Derek, are you serious right now? My dad's asleep, and besides, this is what married couples do. They help each other. I almost laughed. Help each other? Right. When was the last time Vanessa had helped me with anything beyond spending my paycheck? It's 3 a.m, Vanessa. I'm not transferring anything to anyone right now. But Derek! I hung up and turned off the phone. For the first time in months, I smiled as I settled back into bed. Let her figure this one out herself. Maybe Daddy's little princess would finally learn that actions have consequences. The next morning arrived gray and drizzly, typical for our coastal Maine city in October. I made coffee in our oversized kitchen, enjoying the unusual quiet. No Vanessa clattering around in her heels, no dramatic phone calls to her friends, no complaints about how I never appreciated her contributions to our marriage. I was halfway through checking emails when my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Lawson? This is Officer Martinez with Portland PD. Your wife was detained last night at Meridian Club for attempted fraud. She's been released, but you might want to discuss this situation with her. Attempted fraud. I set down my coffee mug, processing this development. Is she in legal trouble? The club decided not to press charges, but there's a report on file. Have a good day, sir. I hung up and sat back in my chair. Vanessa had really done it this time. 8 years of marriage, and she'd finally crossed a line that even her charm and Daddy's money couldn't erase. The front door slammed open around noon. Vanessa stormed in, still wearing last night's black cocktail dress, her makeup smeared, designer purse clutched like a weapon. You bastard! She threw her keys at me, missing by several feet. You set me up! You knew this would happen! I looked up from my laptop, maintaining the same calm expression I'd perfected during our increasingly frequent arguments. I set you up? How exactly did I do that? You froze the accounts. You knew I'd be out, and you deliberately... I didn't freeze anything, Vanessa. Your card was declined because you've been spending money we don't have on things we don't need. I closed the laptop and stood up. But you've given me an excellent idea. Her face went pale beneath her foundation. What do you mean? I walked to our home office and pulled out a folder I'd been preparing for weeks. Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, all the evidence of her spending habits that she thought I'd been too busy to notice. I mean, it's time for some changes around here. I opened my laptop and logged into our joint accounts. As of right now, you're removed from all shared credit cards and bank accounts. You can't do that. Actually, I can. These accounts are in my name. You're just an authorized user. I clicked through the banking website with methodical precision. There. Done. Vanessa stared at me like I'd grown a second head. In 8 years of marriage, I'd never stood up to her like this. I'd been the accommodating husband, the reliable provider, the one who cleaned up her messes without complaint. Derek, be reasonable. How am I supposed to get a job? Ask your father. Figure it out. I packed the folder back into my desk drawer. I'm done being your personal ATM. She tried tears next, the same manipulation that had worked for years. Honey, I know things have been difficult between us, but we can work through this. Marriage is about supporting each other. You're absolutely right, I said, walking past her toward the kitchen. When do you plan to start supporting me? That evening, I called my best friend Miles. We'd known each other since college, and he'd been the only one brave enough to tell me what everyone else was thinking about my marriage. About time you grew a spine, he said when I explained the situation. Rosa and I have been waiting for this day for years. Rosa was my sister, a nurse with zero tolerance for bullshit and even less patience for Vanessa. She'd never hidden her opinion of my wife's contributions to our household. I need your help with something, I told Miles. Your private investigator license is still active, right? Officially? No. Unofficially? What do you need to know? I explained about the club incident, the mysterious friends, the pattern of late nights and expensive purchases that didn't add up. You think she's cheating? I think she's lying about something. The money's just the beginning. Miles was quiet for a moment. Derek, are you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes it's better not to know. I thought about that for exactly 2 seconds. I'm sure. Miles met me at the Lighthouse, a downtown bar that catered to locals rather than tourists, the kind of place where conversations stayed private and bartenders minded their own business. He slid a manila folder across the scarred wooden table. Your wife has expensive taste in friends, he said, nursing a beer. Meridian Club isn't just some trendy spot. It's owned by a guy named Aiden Price, real estate developer, nightclub owner, and according to my sources, he's got a thing for married women. I opened the folder. Photos, financial records, social media screenshots. Vanessa appeared in several images, always dressed to the nines, always laughing at something just outside the camera's view. This one's interesting. Miles pointed to a photo dated 3 weeks ago. Vanessa sat at a corner table with a man I didn't recognize, tall, well-dressed, expensive watch. That's Aiden Price. Notice anything about your wife's jewelry? I looked closer. Vanessa was wearing a diamond bracelet I'd never seen before, the kind of jewelry that cost more than my monthly salary. She told me it was a gift from her mother. Her mother's been gone for 5 years, Derek. The pieces started falling into place. The late nights, the new clothes, the sudden interest in networking events and client dinners. My wife hadn't just been spending our money, she'd been spending someone else's. How long? I asked. Best guess? 6 months, maybe longer. Miles finished his beer. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I stared at the photos, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd moved past that months ago. This was something else, something that felt like clarity. I'm going to make her famous. The next morning, I started my own investigation. Vanessa had left early for what she called a client breakfast, giving me free access to our home office. She'd always been careless with her personal information, assuming I was too busy or too trusting to pay attention. Her laptop password was our wedding anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. Her email revealed a treasure trove of evidence. Dinner reservations at restaurants I'd never been to, hotel bookings for business conferences that didn't exist, and most damning of all, a series of exchanges with someone named A, who signed his messages with heart emojis. Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear the blue dress I bought you. A last night was incredible. You deserve so much better than what you have at home. A don't worry about money, beautiful. I'll take care of everything. I printed everything and organized it chronologically. My software engineering background had taught me the importance of documentation and systematic analysis. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. Perfect. I drove to Meridian Club around 9 p.m., parking across the street with a clear view of the entrance. The club occupied the ground floor of a converted warehouse, all glass and steel and pretentious lighting. Exactly the kind of place Vanessa would love. I didn't have to wait long. At 9:47 p.m., a black BMW pulled up to the valet stand. Aiden Price stepped out, definitely the man from Miles' photos, and walked around to open the passenger door. Vanessa emerged wearing the blue dress from the email, the mysterious diamond bracelet catching the streetlight. She kissed him before they walked into the club together, her hand resting possessively on his arm. I took photos with my phone, making sure to capture clear images of their faces, the license plate, and the timestamp. Evidence was everything. But I wanted more than just photos. I wanted to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I waited until they'd been inside for an hour, then walked up to the valet. $20 bought me the information that Mr. Price's BMW was a regular fixture here, usually on Tuesday and Friday nights. Another $20 revealed that the woman he'd been seeing was married to some tech guy who doesn't pay attention. The valet's casual dismissal of me sparked something ugly in my chest. Some tech guy who doesn't pay attention. Is that how my wife described me to her friends? The boring husband who paid the bills while she played house with someone more exciting? I drove home and sat in my kitchen, staring at the photos on my phone. 8 years of marriage, reduced to evidence of betrayal in a manila folder and a few digital images. But instead of feeling sorry for myself, I felt something else entirely. A cold, calculating anger that surprised me with its intensity. Vanessa had made her choice. Now I was going to make mine. I spent the next week playing the oblivious husband while gathering intelligence. Vanessa's routine was predictable once you knew what to look for. Tuesday and Friday nights at Meridian Club, Wednesday client lunches that lasted until dinner, weekend shopping trips that somehow never resulted in shopping bags. She'd gotten sloppy, confident that I was too wrapped up in my work to notice her absences. For years that had been true. I'd buried myself in code and client meetings, letting her handle the social aspects of our marriage while I focused on providing the lifestyle she demanded. But people change, especially when they discover their spouse thinks they're too stupid to notice a 6-month affair. My opportunity came on a Thursday evening. Vanessa was getting ready for what she claimed was a charity fundraiser for the Children's Hospital. "You should come with me," she said, applying lipstick in our bedroom mirror. "It would be good for your business to network with these people." I looked up from my laptop. What people? Donors, community leaders, potential clients, the kind of people who could really help your career. The kind of people like Aiden Price, no doubt. I almost admired her audacity. "I'll pass. These events aren't really my thing." "That's your problem, Derek. You never want to invest in our future." She grabbed her purse, a new one I'd never seen before. "Sometimes I wonder if you even care about this marriage." The irony was breathtaking. "Have fun at your charity thing." After she left, I called Miles. "It's time." "You sure about this?" "Completely." Miles arrived an hour later with a small gift box and a wicked grin. "This should do the trick." Inside the box was a simple silver picture frame containing a photo I'd never seen before. Vanessa and Aiden Price in an intimate embrace outside a hotel I recognized from her credit card statements. "Where did you get this?" "I have my sources. The question is, what are you going to do with it?" I smiled, feeling that cold clarity settle over me again. "I'm going to give my wife a present." The charity fundraiser was being held at the Eastland Park Hotel, one of the city's most prestigious venues. I'd been to events there before, back when I still cared about Vanessa's social climbing. The layout was familiar. Main ballroom, coat check, ladies' room near the lobby. I arrived at 10 p.m., after the dinner portion, but before the speeches. The hotel lobby buzzed with well-dressed couples and the kind of people who considered charity work a competitive sport. Finding Vanessa wasn't difficult. She was holding court near the bar, animated and laughing, the center of attention in her element. Aiden Price stood nearby, playing the role of the charming host, while my wife entertained his friends with some story that required elaborate hand gestures. I watched them for a few minutes, noting how comfortable they looked together. How natural, like a real couple instead of whatever charade Vanessa and I had been performing for the past few years. The ladies' room plan was simple but effective. I waited until Vanessa excused herself, then approached one of the hotel staff members I'd met during previous events. "Excuse me, Sarah. My wife left her purse at our table and I know she'll need it. Could you make sure she gets this when she comes out?" Sarah smiled and took Vanessa's purse, which I'd retrieved from coat check using the claim ticket I'd lifted from her jacket pocket. "Of course, Mr. Lawson. How thoughtful of you." I'd placed the framed photo carefully inside her purse, positioned so she'd see it immediately when she opened the clasp, along with a simple note: "Smile for the cameras. Your loving husband." Then I left the hotel and drove home to wait. Vanessa burst through our front door at 11:43 p.m., her face flushed with rage and something that might have been fear. "You snake!" She threw her purse at me, the contents spilling across our living room floor. "How dare you embarrass me like that?" I looked down at the scattered items: lipstick, breath mints, credit cards, and the silver picture frame, now lying face up on our hardwood floor. "Embarrass you? I thought it was a lovely photo, very artistic." "This is harassment. This is evidence, Vanessa. Evidence of what you've been doing while I've been working to pay for your lifestyle." She tried the tears again, but her heart wasn't in it. "Derek, please, let me explain. It's not what you think." "Really? What is it then?" "Aiden and I are just friends. That photo was taken out of context." I walked to the couch and sat down, looking up at my wife with something approaching amusement. "Friends don't buy each other diamond bracelets, Vanessa. Friends don't book hotel rooms together. And friends definitely don't kiss like that outside the Marriott downtown." Her face went white. "You've been following me." "I've been paying attention. There's a difference." For a long moment, we stared at each other across our living room. 8 years of marriage, reduced to this moment of absolute honesty. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "I want you to understand something," I said, standing up and walking toward her. "For months, you've been treating me like I'm invisible, like I'm too stupid or too busy to notice what's happening in my own marriage. You've been spending my money on another man while lying to my face every single day." "Derek, I'm not finished." My voice was calm, controlled, but there was steel underneath. "You want to be with Aiden Price? Fine. But you're going to stop using me to finance your affair." I handed her a folder I'd prepared earlier. "Divorce papers. I'm filing on Monday." Vanessa opened the folder, her hands shaking slightly. "You can't be serious. Completely serious. You can fight it if you want, but I have documentation of everything. The affair, the spending, the lies. Maine is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery still matters when it comes to property division." She looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. "What about the house? My car? I can't just—" "You should have thought about that before you decided to sleep with someone else." The crude language shocked her. In 8 years of marriage, I'd never spoken to her like that. "I need time to think," she said. "You have until Monday. After that, this gets very public and very expensive for both of us." She gathered up her purse and headed toward the stairs. At the bottom step, she turned back. I never meant for this to happen. Yes, you did, I said quietly. You meant for all of it to happen. You just didn't mean to get caught. Vanessa didn't come home that night, or the next. I spent Saturday morning changing the locks and transferring her belongings to the guest bedroom. Not out of spite, but out of practicality. If she wanted to fight the divorce, I needed to establish that our marriage was effectively over. Sunday afternoon, she returned with reinforcements. Her best friend Lila and her assistant Simon, both of whom had been fixtures in our social circle for years. Derek, we need to talk, Lila announced, barging into my living room like she owned the place. This whole situation has gotten completely out of hand. Lila Morrison was everything I disliked about Vanessa's friends, entitled, dramatic, and convinced that her opinion mattered to people who weren't paying her salary. She worked in marketing for a boutique firm and treated every conversation like a crisis management session. Hello, Lila. Simon. I nodded to Vanessa's assistant, who looked uncomfortable being dragged into this mess. What can I do for you? You can stop being such a vindictive asshole, Vanessa said, settling onto my couch like she still lived here. We're all adults. We should be able to work this out without lawyers and threats. I agree completely. You can start by explaining why you've been lying to me for 6 months. Lila jumped in before Vanessa could answer. Look, Derek, I understand you're hurt, but destroying Vanessa's reputation isn't going to solve anything. She made a mistake. She made a choice. Multiple choices over multiple months while spending my money and lying to my face. Simon cleared his throat. Maybe we could discuss this privately, between Derek and Vanessa? I looked at him with new interest. Simon Chen had been Vanessa's assistant for 3 years, handling her scheduling and client communications. He was quiet, efficient, and one of the few people in her orbit who seemed to have actual work ethic. That's a good idea, Simon. Unfortunately, Vanessa brought backup, so I guess privacy isn't a priority. Don't be such a drama queen, Lila snapped. Vanessa needs support right now. She's going through a difficult time. She's going through a difficult time? I laughed, genuinely amused. Lila, my wife has been cheating on me with a man who's been paying for her lifestyle while I worked 60-hour weeks to keep up with her spending. If anyone's going through a difficult time, it's me. That's not how it happened, Vanessa protested. Aiden and I developed feelings for each other. It wasn't planned. When did it start? What? Simple question. When did your feelings for Aiden Price start developing? She looked at Lila for support, then back at me. I don't know. A few months ago. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a screenshot of her email. Try again. This is from 8 months ago. Thank you for dinner last night. I haven't felt this way in years. The room went quiet. Simon looked fascinated, like he was watching a movie. Lila's mouth opened and closed without sound. You've been reading my private emails? I've been investigating my wife's behavior after she got arrested for fraud using my credit cards. Turns out, when you dig a little deeper, you find all sorts of interesting information. I stood up and walked to my desk, retrieving the folder Miles had prepared. For instance, did you know that your boyfriend Aiden Price has been married twice before? Both marriages ended because of his affairs with married women. Vanessa's face went pale. That's not true. It's completely true. Miles ran a background check. Aiden has a type, bored housewives with wealthy husbands who can help finance his lifestyle until he gets tired of them. You're lying. I handed her a printout. Divorce records are public information, Vanessa. His first wife caught him with her best friend. His second wife found out he'd been running up credit cards in her name to impress other women. Lila snatched the papers from Vanessa's hands. This doesn't prove anything. People change. You're right. Some people change. I looked directly at my wife. Some people learn from their mistakes and become better. Other people just get better at hiding who they really are. Simon spoke up quietly. Vanessa, Maybe you should listen to what Derek is saying. Whose side are you on? She snapped. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm just saying that if these things are true, you might want to reconsider your situation. I looked at Simon with new respect. He was the only person in the room besides me who seemed to be thinking clearly. Here's what's going to happen, I said, addressing all three of them. Tomorrow morning, I'm filing for divorce. Vanessa can contest it if she wants, but the evidence is overwhelming. She can also try to claim half of our assets, but adultery and financial infidelity tend to influence judges, even in no-fault states. You bastard, Lila said. You're trying to destroy her life. I'm trying to end my marriage to someone who destroyed it months ago. There's a difference. Vanessa finally spoke up. What if I ended things with Aiden? What if we tried counseling? I stared at her for a long moment. Vanessa, do you love me? Of course I love you. That's not what I asked. Do you love me, or do you love the lifestyle I provide? She couldn't answer, which was answer enough. I want all of you to leave now, I said quietly. Vanessa, your things are in the guest bedroom. You can collect them tomorrow while I'm at work. Derek, please. We're done talking, all of us. Lila started to argue, but Simon grabbed her arm. Come on, let's go. As they headed toward the door, Simon turned back. Derek, for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. After they left, I poured myself a scotch and sat in my living room, looking around at the house Vanessa and I had shared for 5 years. Tomorrow, everything would change. By the end of the week, our marriage would be a matter of public record, filed away in the courthouse with thousands of other failed relationships. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Monday morning brought the first surprise. I arrived at my office to find Simon Chen waiting in the lobby of our downtown building. I hope you don't mind me coming here, he said as I led him to my corner office. I wanted to talk to you privately. My software company occupied the 15th floor of a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and industrial lighting that was supposed to look creative. My office overlooked the harbor, where fishing boats mixed with pleasure craft in the kind of picturesque scene that attracted tourists and drove up real estate prices. What can I do for you, Simon? He sat down across from my desk, looking nervous but determined. I wanted to apologize for yesterday. Lila dragged me into that situation and I should have stayed out of it. You don't owe me an apology. You were the only one in that room who made any sense. There's something else. He pulled out his phone. I've been working for Vanessa for 3 years. I handle her calendar, her emails, her client communications. I know things. I leaned back in my chair. What kind of things? The kind of things that might be useful in a divorce proceeding. He showed me his phone screen, a calendar entry from 6 months ago. This is when it started. She told me to block out Tuesday and Friday evenings for client development. But there were never any clients. Why are you telling me this? Simon looked out the window at the harbor, choosing his words carefully. Vanessa's not a bad person, but she's not a good boss. She takes credit for my work, blames me for her mistakes, and treats me like I'm invisible unless she needs something. That sounds familiar. I've been looking for a new job for months. When this whole thing exploded, I realized I might be dragged down with her if her business collapses. I studied Simon's face. He was younger than me, probably in his late 20s, with the kind of quiet intelligence that people often overlooked. The kind of person who saw everything and said nothing until it mattered. What do you want from me? A job, eventually, but right now, I want to help you get the truth. What truth? He scrolled through his phone and showed me another screen. Vanessa's been using company resources for personal business, client dinners that were actually dates, hotel rooms booked through the business account, even flowers and gifts charged to office expenses. That's fraud. That's what I thought. I've been documenting everything, just to protect myself if anyone asked questions. I looked at the evidence on his phone. Dozens of entries, thousands of dollars in personal expenses disguised as business costs. Simon, if you testify about this in divorce proceedings, it could destroy Vanessa's career. I know. He met my eyes steadily. She should have thought about that before she put my job at risk. We spent the next hour going through Simon's documentation. The evidence was damning, a clear pattern of using business resources to finance her affair with Aiden Price. There's one more thing, Simon said as he prepared to leave. Vanessa's planning something. She and Lila have been talking about damage control, about getting ahead of the story before you can use it against her. What kind of damage control? I'm not sure. But Lila mentioned something about making you look like the bad guy, painting you as a controlling husband who drove Vanessa into someone else's arms. I wasn't surprised. Lila had built her career on spinning narratives, and she was exactly the kind of person who would see this as a public relations challenge rather than a human tragedy. Thanks for the warning. Derek? Simon paused at my office door. I meant what I said yesterday. You're doing the right thing. That evening, I met Miles at the lighthouse to plan our next move. The bar was busy for a Monday night, filled with the kind of locals who treated it as their neighborhood living room. Simon's information changes everything, Miles said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. This isn't just adultery anymore. It's embezzlement, fraud, tax evasion. Vanessa could face criminal charges. I don't want to destroy her completely. I just want out of the marriage. Sometimes those are the same thing. Miles finished his beer and signaled for another. What's your timeline? I filed the divorce papers this morning. Vanessa has 30 days to respond, but I'm hoping she'll see reason and settle quickly. What if she doesn't? I thought about that. Then things get messy. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at Meridian Club tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Come alone. I showed the message to Miles, who whistled low. Aiden Price wants a face-to-face meeting. Looks like it. This could be a trap. Or an opportunity. I pocketed my phone. Either way, I'm going. Tuesday evening, I arrived at Meridian Club 15 minutes early and positioned myself at the bar where I could watch the entrance. The club was smaller than I'd expected, all dark wood and dim lighting designed to make everyone look mysterious and attractive. Aiden Price walked in at exactly 9 p.m., scanning the room until he spotted me. He was taller than he'd appeared in the photos, well-dressed in the way that suggested money without trying too hard. The kind of man who was used to getting what he wanted. Derek Lawson? He extended his hand as he approached. Aiden Price, thank you for coming. I didn't shake his hand. What do you want? He sat down on the bar stool next to me, signaling the bartender. Scotch, neat, and whatever he's drinking. I'm fine. Suit yourself. Aiden received his drink and turned to face me. I think we have some things to discuss. Such as? Your wife, for starters. I almost laughed. My wife? I thought she was your girlfriend. It's complicated. Not really. You're sleeping with my wife while I pay her bills. That seems pretty straightforward. Aiden flinched at my directness. Look, I didn't plan for this to happen. Vanessa and I met at a charity event. We started talking, and things developed naturally. Naturally, right. I took a sip of my beer. How long have you been married, Aiden? What? Simple question. How long have you been married? He looked uncomfortable. I'm divorced. Twice, according to my information. Both times because you couldn't keep your hands off other men's wives. That's not true. Public records say otherwise. I turned to face him fully. Here's what I think happened. You saw Vanessa at some social event, recognized her as an easy target. Bored housewife, expensive taste, husband who works too much. You played the charming older man, made her feel special, and slowly drew her into an affair. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? How much money have you spent on my wife, Aiden? The jewelry, the dinners, the hotel rooms. What's your investment so far? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Here's the thing, I continued. I don't actually care about you. You're just another middle-aged man having a midlife crisis. But you made the mistake of using my wife to work through your issues, and that makes it my problem. Vanessa's not happy in her marriage. Vanessa's not happy anywhere. That's her fundamental character flaw. She's always looking for something better, something more exciting, something that costs more money. Aiden finished his scotch and ordered another. What do you want from me? I want you to understand that your relationship with my wife is over. Not because I'm forbidding it, but because I'm cutting off her access to my money. Without my income supporting her lifestyle, Vanessa becomes a very expensive girlfriend. I can take care of her. Can you? Because according to my research, your last two girlfriends discovered that your generosity has limits, especially when it starts affecting your own bank account. We sat in silence for a moment, the noise of the club swirling around us. Aiden was thinking, probably calculating how much it would cost to maintain Vanessa in the style she'd become accustomed to. She loves me, he said finally. She loves what you represent. Freedom from responsibility, excitement, the thrill of doing something forbidden. But love? Aiden, my wife doesn't love anyone except herself. You're wrong about her. Am I? Then why are you here talking to me instead of home with her? He couldn't answer that either. Here's what's going to happen, I said, standing up and dropping money on the bar. I'm divorcing Vanessa. She can fight it if she wants, but the evidence is overwhelming. She can also continue seeing you, but she'll be doing it on her own dime. And if I don't want to end things with her? I looked down at him, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. Then you'll discover exactly what kind of person she becomes when the money runs out. I walked toward the exit, then turned back. One more thing, Aiden. If you ever contact me again, I'll make sure your business partners know about your hobby of seducing married women. I'm guessing that wouldn't be good for your reputation. His face went pale. That's blackmail. That's consequences. There's a difference. I left him sitting at the bar and walked out into the cool October evening, feeling lighter than I had in months. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings and paperwork. Vanessa hired an expensive divorce attorney and tried to paint me as a controlling husband who had driven her into another man's arms. But Simon's evidence was devastating, and her lawyer quickly realized they were fighting a losing battle. The breaking point came on a Friday evening in November. I was working late at the office when my phone rang. Vanessa's number. Derek, we need to talk. Talk to my lawyer. Please, just 5 minutes. I'm downstairs in your lobby. Against my better judgment, I told security to let her up. Vanessa looked different when she walked into my office. Thinner, more tired, wearing clothes I recognized from our marriage instead of the designer outfits she'd been sporting for months. Aiden ended things, she said, without preamble. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. She sat down across from my desk, looking around at the office she'd visited dozens of times during our marriage. You knew this would happen. I suspected it might. He said I was too expensive. Can you believe that? He actually used the word expensive, like I was a car he couldn't afford to maintain. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that wouldn't sound cruel. I know you hate me, she continued, and I know I deserve it. But we were happy once, weren't we? In the beginning? I thought about that question honestly. We were compatible once. I'm not sure we were ever really happy. What's the difference? Happy people don't need to look for something better. They don't need constant excitement and validation from strangers. Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. I signed the divorce papers today. I know. My lawyer called. The settlement is fair. More than fair, considering. I'd given her the house and half our savings, keeping only my business and my retirement accounts. It was generous, given the circumstances, but I wanted a clean break more than I wanted revenge. "What will you do now?" I asked. "I don't know. Start over, I guess. Maybe leave Portland, go somewhere nobody knows about all this." "That might be smart." She stood up and walked to the window overlooking the harbor. "I never meant for things to get so out of hand." "Yes, you did, Vanessa. You meant all of it. You just didn't think about the consequences." She turned back to me, tears in her eyes. "Do you think I'm a terrible person?" I considered the question seriously. "I think you're a person who makes terrible choices. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Maybe. That's for you to figure out." She walked toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not just about getting caught, but about all of it. You deserved better." Yes, I did. After she left, I sat in my office looking out at the harbor, watching the lights of boats moving through the darkness. In a few weeks, our divorce would be final. Vanessa would be someone else's problem, and I would be free to figure out what came next. My phone buzzed with a text from Miles. "Want to grab a beer and celebrate?" I smiled and typed back, "Absolutely." For the first time in years, I had something to celebrate. 3 months later, I ran into Simon at a coffee shop downtown. He was wearing a suit I didn't recognize and looked more confident than I'd ever seen him. "Derek, how are you doing?" "Good, really good. You?" "Great, actually. I started my own consulting business last month, event planning and business management. Turns out I learned a lot working for Vanessa, even if she never appreciated it." "That's fantastic. I'm happy for you." "Thanks. I heard Vanessa left town." "Yeah, she moved to California. Fresh start." Simon nodded. "Probably for the best. Portland's a small city. People have long memories." We chatted for a few more minutes about business and mutual acquaintances. As we prepared to part ways, Simon turned back. "Derek, I know this might sound strange, but thank you." "For what?" "For showing me that sometimes you have to stand up for yourself, even when it's difficult. Even when people try to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries." I thought about that as I walked back to my office. Setting boundaries. Maybe that's all I'd really done. Finally decided what I would and wouldn't accept in my life. My phone buzzed with a notification from my bank, a deposit from a new client, a tech startup that needed help with their software architecture. Good money, interesting work, and the kind of challenge that reminded me why I'd gotten into this business in the first place. I looked around at the city I'd called home for 15 years, seeing it with fresh eyes. The harbor sparkled in the afternoon sun, tourists mixed with locals on the sidewalks, and somewhere in the distance, a foghorn sounded from one of the islands. For the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. 6 months after our divorce was finalized, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. Rosa, my sister, was marrying her longtime boyfriend in a small ceremony at their house. The invitation was handwritten, simple, and included a note. "No drama, no expensive gifts required, just family and friends who actually like each other. Hope you can make it. Rosa." I laughed out loud. Rosa had never liked Vanessa, and she wasn't subtle about her relief that I was finally free. The wedding was perfect, small, genuine, filled with people who were there because they wanted to be, not because they felt obligated or wanted to be seen. I stood in Rosa's backyard, watching her dance with her new husband, and realized this was what happiness actually looked like. Not the desperate pursuit of excitement and validation that had defined my marriage to Vanessa, but the quiet contentment of people who had found what they were looking for and didn't need anything more. Miles appeared beside me with 2 beers. "Good party. The best. Any regrets?" I thought about the question seriously. About the divorce? No. About the marriage? Only that it took me so long to end it. What's next for Derek Lawson? I looked around at the faces of people I cared about, people who had supported me through the worst period of my life without asking for anything in return. "I have no idea," I said, "and that feels perfect." Later that evening, as I drove home through the quiet streets of Portland, my phone rang. Unknown number, which I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "Derek, it's Vanessa." I pulled over to the side of the road. "Vanessa, how are you?" "I'm good. Really good, actually. I'm calling because I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not just say the words." "Okay." I've been in therapy for the past few months, trying to figure out why I made such a mess of everything. And I realized that I never took responsibility for what I did to you, to us. I didn't respond, waiting to see where this was going. I cheated on you because I was selfish and immature and afraid of being ordinary. I spent your money because I felt entitled to it. And I lied to you because I was a coward who didn't want to face the consequences of my choices. I appreciate you saying that. You were a good husband, Derek. You deserve so much better than what I gave you. We both deserved better. We just wanted different things. I know. And I know it's too late to fix anything between us. But I wanted you to know that I understand now. What I did was wrong, and I'm sorry. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me about her new job, her apartment in San Diego, the therapy sessions that were helping her understand her patterns of behavior. She sounded different, calmer, more self-aware, like someone who was finally taking responsibility for her life. "I should let you go," she said finally. "But Derek, I hope you find someone who appreciates what you have to offer." "Thanks, Vanessa. I hope you find what you're looking for, too." After we hung up, I sat in my car for a few minutes, processing the conversation. It didn't change anything about our past, but it felt like a door closing on that chapter of my life. I drove home to my new apartment, smaller than the house I'd shared with Vanessa, but comfortable and entirely mine. No expensive furniture I didn't want, no decorative objects that served no purpose, no reminders of a life that had never quite fit. I poured myself a scotch and sat on my couch, looking out at the harbor through my living room window. Tomorrow was Saturday, which meant no work, no obligations, no schedule except what I chose to create. For the first time in my adult life, I was completely free.